All good.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Go live number 2, because we were chatting for the last 5 minutes and I didn't hit the second go live, so my apologies. How you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing great. Take two.
Take two, round two. All right. So, Jordan, you are a relatively new reefer. You're about a year in, so you're still young in the world of reefing.
Yes.
And this is your first tank, which looks pretty awesome behind you, which is kind of a unique tank because it's kind of like the half, not even half moon, I guess. Like the flat is like two corner boat fronts put together, but it's like a rounded tank. I don't know what you call it, but they're pretty cool tanks. So, how's the journey been for you so far on your very first saltwater tank?
It's been good. I had a lot of ups and downs in the beginning, but now we're
Mhm.
starting to hit stability and full throttle, hopefully good from now on.
Yeah. Okay. So what was you said ups and downs? What was your biggest challenges starting out?
It was definitely the lighting.
Yeah.
I had set up my tank with a local fish store who they set up
Hmm.
my tank, and I guess they put their spectrum on to what they run their lights at their farm or whatever. But
Hmm.
with my lights being, only 4 or 5 inches off the top of my water, I was just nothing could grow in my tank. It was very hit or very. It would like if a coral would grow, it'd be strange. Everything was just
Hmm.
dying. I would put everything in the bottom corner where it was very dark, and it was just still not enough.
Yeah. So just pounding with light basically at first, right?
Yeah, just absolute scorching these corals. Not good.
Yeah. What kind of lights did you have on it?
I have two Hydro 26s HDs.
Yep.
Yeah.
How high? Just out of curiosity, what percentage or how high were you running them at first?
At first,
Yeah.
probably 100% blues and the royal blue.
Hmm.
Um, the UV was like at 75. The green and reds were like at 5 each, and then my whites were like at 15. And
Okay.
there might be one more color in there that I'm missing.
Yeah. So lots of juice coming down,
Yeah,
and then
so much.
so did you eventually get a par meter and figure out it was crazy
Yeah,
high
I
or?
did some research on like these super easy corals, Cyphastras and just Duncans. I mean, fairly easy coral that are just wasn't doing a candy cane, just not good. So I did some more
Mhm.
research. More research. I found BRS. They do some great
Yeah.
lighting and dealing with all that stuff. So they said get a par meter. It's exactly what I did. Got a par meter, ran some par tests, and I was getting 900 par in spots in my tank, and it was just like
That's
it's
huge.
an oven, so not good.
Hmm. So what? Okay, so once you part tested it, would you bring like roughly what are your levels now? Like, would you drop it down to?
Um, I mean, I would say lower light is
Hmm.
a lot safer than having too much light.
Yeah, 100%.
I haven't done a par test on my tank since,
Hmm.
but I lowered my lights significantly. They run probably at max 30% the blues.
Okay, so from 100, so that's a huge decrease.
Okay, so here's I'm looking at my app right now.
Okay.
So my UV was like at 75. My UV right now is at 4. My violet is at 17.
Hmm.
My royal blues at 68. My blues at 57.
Okay.
Green and reds at 1%, and then my white at 6.
Okay. So it is pretty much cut in half-ish or more.
Yeah, I lowered it a lot. Everything was really high. Everything was really high. I got to do a par test, but
Hmm.
everything since I lowered them to what I thought would be, you know what? Let me just I just like I threw this out. This was not I didn't go by anybody's thing. I just said, you know what? Let me lower this 30% each, and it's
Hmm.
everything looks great. Everything's working. Um,
Yeah. Then how after you lowered it and got stuff back down to like happy level, after how long did your corals and stuff start to look better and happier and
um, so once my tank was put back up, I got some coral back from my friend. I didn't want to put them all in,
Mhm.
and they look great. Open, feeding tentacles out, eight cans, everything was out. And then I said, okay, just little by little added more, and then just got all my coral back for about a month. And then I went coral shopping, got a whole bunch of frags, put them in there, and everything's been good. So
Yep.
that's
Nice. So far, so good?
Yeah, so far so good. So I'm sticking
Yep.
with it, not changing it. It's mostly LPS. I
Yep.
got Blastos, they can stuff like that. No,
Mm.
no SPS. I have like a couple acrofrags, like a PC Rainbow and a
Yep.
Digitata, Astra, but nothing crazy.
Nice. No, that's pretty good. So okay, so once we start blasting with light, everything's back to happiness.
Yeah,
That's good. So lower light's definitely better than higher light.
yeah, that's what I would tell everybody. Lower light, like you could work with that. Higher light, it's like it gets frustrating. It's really frustrating. You're like, what? Like everything, no matter where I move it to, it's not doing good. At least in lower light, you could move it up, down, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah, and that's the issue with this tank, like the canopy, like I can't raise my lights or move my lights.
Hmm.
So it's just dealing with the spectrum.
Yep. No, very cool. It's funky too with the lid. So your lights are pretty close to the water.
Yeah, really close, really, really close. And I have
Yep.
two of them, so it's like it's tough.
Now, how's the shape of the tank? Like, how do you find like aquascaping and doing everything with kind of like the half round tank, half circle?
The aquascaping was easy. Um, it wasn't. It's not a challenge. The only thing with the lights being where they're at is that I get like this lighting, like looks like a pyramid, and then I get like those
Hmm.
shade dark spots on the sides. So
Yeah.
that's where I'll put my lower lights. I'll put some chalices on the lower light. I'll put some enchiladas and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I would much rather deal with a square tank. The future for this tank is just anemones only, and then just
Yep.
move my corals to a tank where I could have the spectrum I want,
Hmm.
where I want. It's just so much easier. Like I saw the video you posted up previously with he had a tank similar with the one that goes into the corner.
Yep.
Um,
Oh yeah, the floating one for Kai's
yeah,
tank.
floating
Yep.
one. Yeah, yeah. But he had his lights not on a canopy where he could have them, a certain height. So if you could
Hmm.
do that, definitely. But if I
Yeah.
were to take the canopy off this, it would look like weird, and it just looks better like this.
Hmm. That's fair.
Yeah.
Nice. So have you started dosing that tank yet?
Oh yeah, I run Brightwell 8.3
Hmm.
alk, and then I run the calcium from Brightwell.
Yep.
Um, and I dose 20 mLs of alk every day.
Hmm. Nice.
And calcium, not that much. I test with my Trident, so
Yep.
the Trident runs with the dose, so they run off
Does
each
it?
other.
Do you have it dosing for you?
Yeah, it has a dosing
Nice.
for me. Yeah, so it'll go
That's
from 20 mLs. If it hits the spot, it'll go to 16. So it runs
Okay.
off each
That's
other.
handy. Makes that
Yeah,
part definitely easier.
I love the Trident. It's like a sigh of relief. Like I'll
Yeah.
test manually here and there just in case,
Hmm.
but it's been nothing. Like I can't speak bad about it. Only thing is that once the reagent gets low,
Yeah.
the measurement doesn't. It just like it'll swing, and so like I'll
Okay.
get worried because I know that's not like an accurate
Hmm.
reading.
But
So,
does it change your dosing though if it swings, or is it not really? Like it keeps it
from
fairly in line?
what I heard, it could, but
Hmm.
when you set it up, you could put it to a percentage. So let's say you want your alk at 8.5. You
Yeah.
could say you could dose up to 50% um, of what we're dosing, or you could put it all the way to 10%.
Hmm.
So if I'm dosing, 20 mLs and it reads something off, it's only going to dose max 10%.
Okay. So that's
Uh,
that built-in safety buffer.
yeah, built-in safety, and then you'll get an alert saying your reagent's out, so you could just replace it. But
Hmm.
I've never personally had something like crazy where it just doses a lot.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I don't actually have the Trident, so I'm just curious for my
Yeah,
own
I see you
knowledge
have
too.
the Alcatronic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard that they're coming out with the Mastertronic too, which looks
That looks cool.
yeah,
They're I've actually been watching that for like 2 years now, so I'm itching for it. I've
yeah,
heard they're shipping, but I haven't seen one stuck in it yet, so I'm on the
gotcha.
prowl. Because I test like everything, so I'm like, I need one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Trident just test alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium.
Yep. Now,
Uh,
did you have the Trident since the beginning when you started adding corals, or did you get it afterwards?
beginning, since the beginning, I had it since the beginning. I didn't
Yeah.
set it up. I had it, but I didn't set it up because I had like one or two corals. So like, it wasn't. I wasn't gonna start testing my water with the Trident when I could just the water tank would just keep up with it.
Yeah. Okay, that works too.
So then once I got a lot of coral where, You know, I knew that my alk swings were going to be, a little bit significant.
Mm-hmm.
I started and I tried it. And it's great. It tests alkalinity 4 times a day and
Mm-hmm.
calcium and magnesium twice a day. So it's
Nice.
great. Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. Now, how big and how often water changes do you do?
I aim for 20 gallons every 2 weeks.
Yep. Nice. And
So,
how many gallons is your tank?
so the top is 75 and my sump is 25.
Okay.
So
Nice.
100 gallons.
100 gallons.
Yeah.
Now, how okay, so you got the dosing basically automated, which is awesome. That makes it really easy.
Yeah.
Par's in line now. Has
Yes.
everything in the tank been happy, or has there been any other things that you've had, like little learning experiences or hurdles or different things?
I lost my gold torch to an enchilada.
Oh, that sucks.
Be careful placing your corals. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, a trocus snail came by, knocked it over, landed on the enchilada. That was
Dang.
good. But
Enchiladas always win.
yeah, no, always,
Hmm.
always win. And I lost an A can too to an enchilada because I have a lot of my frags on my sand bed because
Hmm.
of anemones, and those things just they don't stop moving. They'll
Hmm.
find a spot for a good month or two, and then they'll go on a walk again. So
Yep.
for me to put my coral glued onto my rockwork when I'm planning to move them eventually, is
Hmm.
like it's not worth it. I'll just have them in the sand bed. They're growing. I like them. They're nice, and then anemones are always stinging, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, par is a lot of people don't want to get a par meter or don't test. But that's a good, if you could do it, definitely like it's a great investment.
Hmm. It is. I think at least if they're new lights, you never use them. Like you need to have an idea the range is at, so you're
Yeah.
not going completely blind guessing.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of like reef clubs, some will have them, so you can borrow one. I know BRS rents them. The
Yeah,
Senai is probably the cheapest option to buy one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
that's pretty good. It tells you. I mean, you could put it in your tank. It'll tell you temperature and it might tell you pH. It tells you some other stuff, but I just use it for a par meter.
yeah, I debated buying one for that just as a parameter, same thing.
Yeah,
But I suppose if you're like cycling a new tank too, it's a good excuse to do
yeah,
it for the ammonia and track your cycle and everything as
yeah,
well.
yeah. It's a good. I mean, $200, not a bad price. I mean, the reefing hobby could get really expensive. So
Yeah, it's funny how your perspective changes, right? Like I remember back in my freshwater days, you're like, "What? That's like $20? I don't know." And now you're like, "Oh, $50 sounds cheap."
yeah, totally, totally. Like hang on filter, like 50, $60. Oh my God, like what? And then you're here, like corals start like through the roof. Like that's like yeah, and equipment too is
Yep.
very expensive.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this one before on Go Live #1 without actual Go Live. But so for flow in the tank, it looks like you have two of the Neros, right?
Yeah, I have two Nero 5s, one on
Yep.
each side. I run them at 30%. So I know that you could set a low. So I have them low 15%, high
Yeah.
30% with the variant at high. So it's always constantly changing.
Nice, excellent. So you've been pretty happy they're working out well.
Yeah, they're working out great. I haven't cleaned them. They don't seem to have a problem, but I'll probably clean them maybe a couple months, dip them in some vinegar and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But they're great. I love how small they are.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, the Nero 3 is like even super tinier now. Because I talking about how tall, and had a Nero 3 earlier, got it a little while ago, and have that one on my frag tank, but it's tiny. Like it amazes me how small it is for what it can do.
The profile, super, super nice. And it comes, even if you don't have a smartphone, it comes with the built-in um, controller.
I've never used
I-
it.
I've never used it either.
Okay.
Some
Yeah.
people, if they don't have a smartphone, but
Yeah.
yeah, shouldn't be that hard to use. I think they do a great job. It's a great power head.
Hmm. All right. Smoking Reef was asking, what fish do you have? I seen a sailfin and possibly a
So,
powder blue, or not a hippo tang
so I got
so far.
a blue hippo tang. I got a sailfin. I got a royogramma, Barbonus anthias,
Nice.
a clownfish,
Hmm.
a leopard wrasse,
Yep.
and a mandarin
Nice.
dragonet. And
Nice.
that was my first fish. Even though I did a lot of research, people were like, "Don't do it. You have a lot of hobopods. They're very expert level."
Hmm.
And I have a lot of rock work, so I collaborated with Algae Barn. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if you've heard of them.
Yep. Oh
Uh,
yeah, I did. I've used their stuff before.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they would send me copepods once a month,
Hmm.
Just dump them in there, and I mean, at night when the lights are off, you put the light, and it looks like mosquitoes, like a whole bunch of bugs everywhere. So that was my first fish, and it's been great. But
Nice.
yeah, I
Well,
want I would love, not for this tank, it's a little too small, but an Achilles
hmm
tank. Even
hmm
though I know Hawaii just closed, and I probably will not get it, but
hmm
that's my favorite fish.
Yeah, they're beautiful fish.
Yeah, I love them. I love them.
Okay, so Mandarin Dragonet first fish, which most people say is harder, and you want an old tank, so you new reefer, new tank, Mandarin, but you did kind of get that
Yeah,
constant flow of copepods, which is a
yeah,
big key to make sure you succeed with them.
absolutely, yeah, definitely. Because he doesn't. When I'll feed the mice, when I feed anything, he will not pay attention to it at all. He's just pecking at pods all day.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. So how long have you had him now?
I've had him for about 8 to 9 months. It's gonna be a year soon.
Nice, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
going strong, happy, healthy.
yeah, super healthy. Oh, and I have a blue chromis. That
Hmm.
was actually my first fish. Totally forgot.
Yeah.
I set up my tank. When they told me, I was super excited to get fish. Of course, when you first set up your tank,
Hmm.
and they told me, oh, come get some chromis same day. I
Yeah.
started my tank with live sand, with the
Hmm.
Clipsy life rock,
Yep.
and ocean water.
Hmm.
So, they said, you're gonna go through a little bit of a cycle, but you have a lot of bacteria already in there, especially from the ocean water from here in Florida,
Hmm.
that you should be fine putting the chromis in. And
Yep.
put them in. He did great.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, in 100
but
gallons of water, one chromis is probably fine, realistically,
yeah,
because that's a lot of stuff. But
yeah. But I wouldn't
hmm
I wouldn't start a tank. If you're mixing your own salt and stuff like that, just let your tank cycle for. People do different. There's different products that you could throw in there, but just give it some time. I wouldn't start off a fish right away. Some people say,
hmm
oh, it's abusive to the fish and stuff like that, but and I
when you when you say use ocean water, like legit water from the ocean?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
legit water from the ocean.
Nice.
So
I guess you're in Florida. It's easy for you.
yeah, yeah. They'll go out there on boats all the way deep out there to where the reefs are at. They'll
Hmm.
and then they'll bring the water in and sell it to the local fish stores.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, mixing your own salt water versus buying ocean water, is there much of a difference price wise, or is it a convenience thing, or
It's
is it
it's
natural thing?
it's more expensive to buy made water.
Yeah.
So you could buy some made water from a local fish store. I think we charge, it might be like 75 cents to $1 per gallon for the made water, and then it'll be
Hmm.
like 50 cents for the ocean water.
Okay. Oh, so it is cheaper too.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
cheaper. Um,
Nice.
but you also don't. I like making my own water because I know what I'm making. I don't know what's in that ocean water,
Hmm.
what type of bacteria. I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
But if you're going the cheaper route, you're starting off. It's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's kind of makes sense too for cycling. Like I'm sure there is some good stuff in there as well. I mean, who knows what's in it, but hopefully overall it's good stuff.
Yeah,
Seems to work.
it's. I mean, if it's ocean water, so I wouldn't see why not. I mean, they don't
Hmm.
go there. They don't go out there to the beaches where people are in suntan lotion and stuff like that right
It's not
there.
right off the highway, off a bridge. Just drop
Yeah,
your hose
no, it's
down
not
there.
that either. Um, so I mean, it's a risk. I just like knowing what's in my water. I use
Yeah, for sure.
uh the Tropic Marin, the Pro.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
stuff.
so
So,
I love it.
did you get a RODI unit off the bat, or did you get one eventually after?
The one that the local fish store told me to order was on back order. So I had my
Mhm.
tank for about I had it October, so about a month is when I started making my own water. So
Hmm.
at first I was just going to the fish store with buckets. You know how
Yep.
that goes.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I did that for a couple months, and then I was like, "Hey, I'm not for this. I'm buying an RODI unit.
yeah,
Just make your own."
yeah. Going to the local fish store with buckets, it gets tiring fast.
Yeah, get your workout in for the day. Just haul in your water.
Yeah, definitely. You do a water
Hmm.
like when you're making your own water at home, you do a water change, and I do a water change 10 minutes max, and it's such
Yep.
a relief.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
easy, and it's there. If something happens, you have it when you need it, right?
Or
Versus,
exactly. If you need something, you could make something quick. And the Tropic Mare
Mhm.
mix is pretty fast.
yeah, nice. No, that's good stuff. I've heard that mix is actually one of the faster ones that mix. So,
I love it. I used to use the Red Sea Pro.
yep.
I didn't have any problems with it. I just
Mhm.
heard a lot of good things about the tropic marine, so I just
Yep.
switched over.
Nice.
Yeah, and I love them. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, starting a new tank. What else have you? Is there anything you did that you said, "Oh, I wish I knew this before"? Or is there any like lesson learned kind of that way?
Mm, lessons before. Do your research because the local fish store that I went to, they had like a whole bunch of farming and stuff like that. And I thought they were great, but
Hmm.
they charged a lot of money to set up my tank. And going doing other research to other places, they're like, oh, we could have done it for so much cheaper. So just do your
Hmm.
research. Um, I spent a good solid 1 or 2 months just researching things, just
Yeah.
from products to just do your research. I think that's number one. And I feel like the water is like if your water is good, you're in the right direction.
Hmm.
I feel like that's the number one thing, water. Having good water, making.
Yep.
I mean, if you can't afford it, obviously it's understandable. But if you can,
Hmm.
go strive for the best.
Yeah. I agree, and it is true. Like we are keeping water at the end of the day, and if the water is good, everything inside of it is good. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think just trusting, get whatever coral or fish you're getting from. Do some research on, are they acclimating them? Are they treating them with copper? Are they quarantining them? Stuff like that.
Hmm.
I get when I buy corals, I buy from Top Shelf, and their shipping is amazing. Uh,
Hmm.
another great company is just shipping amazing worldwide.
Yep.
Great stuff. Um, so just make sure you're just buying from reputable people, and you know, I would feel safe putting in these two companies' tank without dipping them in my tank if I had to. Like if I ran out of dip and I needed to put them in my tank, I'd feel safe.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I've had like tours of both their facilities. Like they're both awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, I dip all my
You're
coral. That's
wise.
I tell everybody that. A lot of people. I used to work at a local fish store, and a lot of people have no idea what dipping is and stuff like that. And I tell them, do some
Hmm.
research. Dipping your coral. That's. I mean, you're paying so much money for it to dip it. It's like a bottle of dip is not gonna hurt. Not gonna
Yeah.
break the bank.
Hmm. No, it's true, and you'll learn your lesson quick if you don't. And one pest gets in, and it's just a nightmare to deal with and get it out and everything else.
Yep. I had a small aptasia on one of my Zoa frags, and I was like, oh no. I mean, dip isn't gonna do anything for it, but I it was just I got home and I just put the frags in. I was like, okay, let me take off the aptasia, and I was like, you know what, I'll save for later. It ended up walking off the frag plug and onto a rock, and it just bothers me because I work so hard not to get pests in my tank.
Oh, I know, eh? It,
Yeah,
it totally does.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, the one photo of your tank with like kind of the bluer lights, how is that a recent one or is that an older photo or?
That's recent. The anemones moved from where they were.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's recent. That was not too long ago. That was
Nice.
pretty recent, yeah.
Got some pretty nice scullies and rock flowers and blastos. So
Yeah,
I was
that
asking to see your tank, so I kind of just pulled up the one photo of it. But
gotcha. Yeah, that was December 22nd.
okay, nice. So yeah,
Yeah,
almost a month ago.
yeah.
Nice. No, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
You
my phosphates have been a problem, I'll tell you that. I
are you using any medias or
I run
dosing
GF
anything for it right now?
I run GFO, and I don't know if maybe my hand eye checker is just off, but like I'll put
Hmm.
brand new GFO, I'll let it run for about a week and I'll do a test. And it will down a little bit, but like I
Hmm.
gotta find a better I feel like I have to find a better solution.
Yeah. What yeah, I know. What are your phosphates right now?
My phosphate last time I checked it last week and it was at like point 0.1 or yeah, point 0.1, not point 0.01, point 0.1.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not terrible.
Yeah, I would like to get it lower, but that's just
Point yeah, point oh 0.03 to point oh 0.09 is kind of like the happy zone that I shoot for. Like mine are terribly high on my tank right now, so I'm in the same boat of having to deal with them.
yeah. My
So,
nitrates too, they say like I mean it's not bad, but it's like 16. Not too bad. I
mhm.
run I run the I feed the PE mysis. I feed one
Yep.
cube a day.
Hmm.
Everybody eats it. And then I'll run my automatic feeder once a day just because I have the Barbonis Anthias and I know they need to be fed throughout the day and stuff like that. So I'll run that. But if I didn't have that fish, I would feed just one cube of mysis a day and try to keep everything low.
Yep.
I feed the corals every Sunday, feed them some reef. I run I dose the Brightwell aminos, and
Yep.
and I'll run some Red Sea AB plus. They say to do it every day, so I do it every day.
I'm so bad. I do it like once a week when I think about it. I have one of the Brightwell ones on a doser, and I do have the Red Sea one, which is like once a week-ish when I remember to do it.
Yeah,
So
the only
like
thing about the bright not the Brightwell, the Red Sea is that it needs to be refrigerated.
Yeah.
So it's like the Brightwell you could just put on a doser and let it do its thing.
Yeah, that's a huge plus. The bright one you can put on a doser, and I think the two little fishies one you can put on a doser. Most of the other ones want to be refrigerated.
Gotcha. Like the Acro Power?
Yeah.
Nice.
That one. I used to have that one on a doser for ages. Yeah, someone was talking about lanthanum chloride for phosphates, and that can definitely work very well. I was actually digging into that today because I might use some to get mine down. My phosphates were 0.24, so mine were really high.
Oh, gotcha.
So 0.1 is not bad at all.
All right.
Yeah, so I've been using GFO in mine, and they're still super high.
I know. You run carbon in your tank?
Yeah, little bits. I do. I don't change it that often. I do it probably every like 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So with that, it's still high though. Like I could try using more GFO, but I might actually try a little bit of lanthanum just to drop it down a happy zone, then see if it can maintain it. Now, lanthanum chloride, as Reef Automation is saying, be careful. That, what it does is it binds the phosphates in your water and makes it into like a particulate. So that small particulate is not good for fish, especially like tangs and wrasses. So if you do use it, you want to use it within a filter sock, use it slow, very, very slow drip, drip into like a 1 micron filter sock or something to contain those particles and not let it get into your tank. So I might try that in the near future, just since we were talking about it in the chat. But yeah, a couple people are talking about phosphate, and that's the Brightwell one. It's probably the one I'll try. I've heard.
Yeah,
seems to be a pretty popular one.
I heard about the Brightwell one, and I was thinking about trying it, so I might. Just gotta go to the fish store and pick it up and try it out. Yeah. You were speaking about carbon dealing with the HLLE for tangs and stuff like that. One of your live streams, and I always ran Red Sea carbon in my tank. I'll change it once a month.
Yep.
And never had a problem with tangs. Used the Chem one, the Matrix carbon, I think it is. And my tank got a hole, like the hole in head. Really? Yeah, it was pretty bad. He was like always by the cleaner shrimp, always hiding, didn't look too good. The minute I took that out, tang, it felt like it was just day and night. He was healed up fairly quickly, and he was back to where he was. So I don't know what's in there. I don't know, maybe it's just I'm not sure. And I did half the dosing that they recommended. I'm not trying to put their product down or anything, but I'm just saying what happened to me in my experience. Yeah. The Red Sea's
the biggest thing, at least from my understanding with the HLLE stuff, is from the powder and the fine particulates from the carbon. And so I think a big thing is just rinse it really, really, really well. Even if you run it through, like when I put mine in a reactor, I'll just take in like the bathtub and like let water run through it for like hold it there for a couple of minutes until it's like crystal clear water and all those particles are gone. And that goes a long ways.
Do you think that water, like from your tub or sink, your carbon like picks up a lot of stuff while you're rinsing it out, or?
It's probably a little bit, but I don't think it's a huge amount. It's more benefit of getting rid of all those dust fines than the little bit you may 1% waste of it, right? Like I have no idea what the percentage is, but of course. It's relatively small. I used to have the same worry actually when I first started doing. I'm like, am I wasting my carbon by rinsing it? But or you could put it in your tank, and if you have a reactor, take your output of your reactor and put it into a bucket and let it jump out a couple of gallons and use that as like a mini water change. Like that's another way to do it too, right?
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
What I used to do.
Yeah. So I mean, helpful, and I just do it, and I just. But now I'll just take it to the tub and I'll do that too. But at first I was like, am I wasting my carbon? Like it's like.
I used to think the same thing.
I would love to get my tank like crystal clear, like how yours is. But I know you run UV and stuff like that. I would love to run it, but I heard UV like kills the copepods and stuff like that.
Not really. Okay, so UV is, I think copepods are too big for it to really overly impact them. And if it did, it would be a very small percentage. because stuff has to flow through it and it has to have enough contact time. Now, like algae or like single-celled organisms, a lot easier to impact it. Where like copepods and bigger stuff, I don't think that couple seconds in there is really going to do much to them. But on the flip side, you don't really have many copepods swimming around in the water column. Most of them are on like your rocks, your sand, your glass, right? They're on the surfaces, so it's fairly low risk there.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
I would give my tank like crystal clear. I mean, I've seen some tanks that they're just like crystal clear. It's like crazy.
Oh yeah, like I'm obsessed with like super clear tank. So UV, I used to use ozone. Now I'm using UV on my tank, and very similar results, to be honest. So it's definitely makes a big difference. Both of them clear your water very nicely. And then the other thing is too, if you're using some kind of mechanical filtration, like I have a filter roll on my tank, but you can use like filter floss or socks or whatever you want. Just a little more maintenance, but it definitely makes a big difference.
I run the SK 5000 Clarity.
Oh, beautiful.
I had filter socks, and man, changing over to a filter roller, this is a great, like, it's the best thing ever invented. Like,
right?
I don't have to freaking spend an hour cleaning 6 filter socks every Sunday. Oh man, what a breeze. The only issue that I'm gonna see it coming up is putting up a new roller. What do you do?
Okay. All right. So first of all, 100% agree with you. It is so much nicer changing a roll every like other 2 months than changing a sock every couple days. And then the big thing for me is like I had like 10, 12 socks. So I would just keep throwing them in a 5-gallon bucket, and like once a month I'd clean them. But then you have this nasty, gross sock bucket you got to deal with. You got to wash it, and people are mad you're putting nasty things in the washer. Filter roll is much easier. Okay. So to change the roll, what I do is before it's out, when it's almost out, take a new roll and then staple it, like use like a paper staple and staple it to the old roll, and just hit the little play button on the filter roller and let it pull it through for you. Way easy, easiest way to do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I do that, pull it through, and then I just like kind of like rip the staples out or cut it or whatever. Then just pull out the old roll and just rewind on the new roll. Like on the side where that little notch is, just do a little notch in the fabric, fold it under your little C-shaped cover thing, and just hold the play button, let it do a wrap or two, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I've had it since the beginning of December.
Yeah.
And it's great. I haven't changed it. Should have maybe a month left in it, and it's
you're doing pretty good then. My first one I burned through pretty quick, but then after that now they started to last longer just because new tank, like all the sand particles, all that type of jazz. But I find the longer you have it, it starts to last longer and longer. Like on my big tank, I probably get about 7-8 weeks out of it now, which is pretty good.
I love it. It's like a breeze. It's not fun going out there with a pressure washer and cleaning it. I tried putting it in the washer one time, and
you can. People have done it. I've thought about it.
I tried it, but it made my washer smell bad. It was, yeah, it was not. So I was like, you know what? I'll just use a pressure washer.
Yeah.
But man, filter. I think it's like $400. I think.
They're not cheap, but they're amazing once you have it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good investment. I think so. I would definitely say like filter socks are not bad. This is just, I'm just trying to make my tank, like I see your tank, you want it automated as possible, easiest as possible. That's all I want mine.
Nice.
So if you want that, get a freaking Clarity. It's great.
Yeah, I 100% with you on that one. Makes it just, I don't know, so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. A couple people talk about the filter roller thing. Yeah, super glue, honestly, it's staples. So much easier. Just click, pull it through. You don't have to take it apart and do anything. Just pulls it through. Then just either cut it or just rip the staples out, and then just do your little notch in the corner, put it on the side. The hardest part, honestly, for me, is getting the old roll off because it gets on there so tight. It's always a bugger. So I'll like poke the middle with something just to hold it in place, and try and pull the other one, slide it. That's the hardest part of it, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah. I had to squeeze it in there. My sump is small, so I squeeze that in there with my skimmer in the same chamber.
Yep.
And it works. Oh, thank God. I didn't want to take up my other chamber, which was my refugium and stuff like that, but it works, and I love it. It's great. Picks up everything.
Nice. So you got a refugium in there too?
Yeah, I have a refugium.
Yep.
I'm running the Kessel, I think it's the A80.
Okay, the smaller guy. How's it working?
Yeah. It works great. I have It's not dragon's breath. It's another red macroalgae.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Ogo or something like that.
maybe, yeah, that might be it. I'm not
Did you
too.
get it from Algae Barn?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay.
It is Ogo. It is Ogo. I
Yeah.
got it
Okay.
from a local fish store.
Okay.
It
Nice.
works great. I also, my friend has a tank and it's full of Xenia, and he
Mm-hmm.
swears that it filter feeds and lowers nitrates and stuff like that. So I put a frag of Xenia in my sump, and that thing grew
Nice.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've heard that too. I've been curious. Like,
yeah.
I love the look of Xenia, and I love watching it pulse. Like, it's mesmerizing. But like some tanks is perfectly good. Other tanks does he completely take over. So I've been like fearful to put in my tank. But I always love it and appreciate it and love the movement of it.
Yeah, I love it too. My friend's tank, he has so much. It's like it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, hey, I think it keeps my nitrates low, and I feed a lot. So I said, you know what? I'll just put it in my sump. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And they're nice. The pulsing, I've done research on like why do they pulse and stuff like that, and nobody seems to know why they do that. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool. It's super pretty. I don't know. I theorize that it's to do with like, how some corals like it uses the water around it to like bring nutrients in or now, which is probably its way of trying to make its little micro flow.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's beautiful either way, right?
Yeah, I like them. I
Yep.
mean, I agree with you. I wouldn't put it in my tank because I feel like it would take over, but that's why I have it in my sump.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I don't know where it was or a photo, but someone had like a little tiny tank on their desk at work, right beside a window, no light, it literally just got sunshine, and it was just full of Xenia. And the whole thing was just pulsing. I'm like, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it's a
easiest
great,
tank ever.
super easy. Just like
Mhm.
GSP. I didn't want
Yeah.
to put GSP in my tank, and my mom's like, "Oh my God, I love that coral. Please get it, please get it." So
Hmm.
debating, and I got a frag of it, and I just glued it to the back of my tank, and that thing's growing so fast. I'm so glad I didn't put it on a rock or anything because that thing grows fast. But it's nice
Yeah.
to have it on the back of your overflow.
Yep.
There you go.
The only thing you got to watch is eventually make sure it doesn't like block your overflow teeth.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
might take a little razor and trim back once in a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I still like GSP too, but same thing. Like I make sure it's an island. Just never put on your main rock
Yeah,
structure. Like you can peel it off, but it's a bit of a pain.
yeah. You don't want to deal with that hassle. I feel like working at the local fish store, everybody is mesmerized by the GSP. Everybody wants it, and I'm like, that's
You
such
can't kill it and it's bright.
yeah. Everybody loves it. So
Yeah. How long did you work at LFS for?
about 3 months due to COVID, had to stop. So I didn't get
Yeah.
COVID personally, but
Mm.
just here in Miami, so many cases, even till today. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
So just rather be safe. I have grandparents who are older and stuff like that, so rather just be safe. And so I
Yeah.
stopped working. And
That's fair.
yeah,
So
so COVID that's a whole another conversation, but
have you found you've given your tank more love since you're
yeah,
home more?
no, 100%, 100%. With
Hmm.
COVID, you could. I'm always looking at my tank every day because of COVID. So
Yeah.
it's bad, but it has, I guess, a little bit of something good, at least for your tank.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, definitely true. Yeah, changing out. I have another thing that I would recommend people to do is get like a calendar
Hmm.
and write down everything. Like I have if you're here in the States, worldwide it sells a calendar,
Yeah.
$15, and it has like a big box. I'll write all my measurements, my
Nice.
salinity, my temperature, and
Hmm.
if I ever need to go back to look, compare, I have that every Sunday. It's just there. Um, super random, but I had a gold torch spawn in my tank.
Really?
I had no idea what to do. Like yeah, it was just letting out eggs, and it was just
That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool. Some people were saying, just try to catch them and they'll just
Hmm.
go on the rock. I also did some research that you need another gold torch so that they could both. Um,
Huh.
so
I've never seen a torch release eggs. That's really cool.
yeah, my torch. I could probably find a picture for you, but yeah, I was like, whoa, like it was pretty cool.
No, that is awesome. Huh. Very cool. Battles here. Neptune has that in the app. Yeah, you can log stuff
Yeah,
in the Neptune.
yeah. Neptune has
Yeah.
a little chart that you could fill everything out. I just feel like it's easier for me to just write stuff down. But yeah, if
Yeah.
you have Apex, yeah, you could go in there
Hmm.
and log everything for sure.
I just use a Google spreadsheet, like the Google Sheets, and I
Hmm.
just have a big one for like all my tanks, and I have a little tab for when I change my RODI filters, and another
Yep,
one for like my frag tank, and another one for my main tank, and just make little notes of stuff
for
because
sure. Yeah.
I'm a slacker at testing. But when I periodically test, then I can look at the trends. So
Hmm.
it's a good way.
If you, I mean, whatever works for you, whether it's an app, I
Hmm.
like old school pen and paper, so I just use a calendar, stuff like that. Um,
Perfect.
yeah,
Whatever
just
works.
yeah, whatever you prefer, but definitely taking notes on your tank, keeping stability. I think it's the more attention you give to your tank, I feel like the more it returns to you, you know?
Hmm.
So
Now, being because you're basically saying your hands are in your tank like every day. Do you feel more in tune to your tank now? Do you notice if something's a little off or something a little different now since you're staring at it and playing with it on a daily basis?
if I could keep my hands out of my tank, I would. I don't like putting my hands into the tank just because
Hmm.
you have like just oils that your body produces, and
Yep.
especially now with COVID where people are using hand sanitizer all the time. I'm always using hand sanitizer, like
Hmm.
so. I would rather not put my hands in my tank, but I don't gl-
Wise.
I don't glue my frags to my rock work. I'll shove them in a hole or I'll put them somewhere.
Hmm.
But my snails are always knocking them down, and my anemones are always moving, so I have to move them. But if you could keep your hands out of your tank, dose what you need to dose.
Hmm.
It it I think it pays off. Do your water changes, and your corals are if you could get them to the right parameters, they could. I mean, obviously there's slower growing coral than others, but
Yep.
I did realize keeping my hands out of my tank is beneficial. I don't
It
have research, I don't have proof, but
it is true. It is true.
I feel like I see it. Like I know it. Like.
You're wise. You are a wise young reefer because it is so true. And I know it is terrible. Like I have my hands in the tank way too much, and the last month or two I've been trying not to have my hands in the tank every day.
Yeah.
So
Like
that's
I
been
gotta rinse my hands in the sink, with just water here and there. Like I don't like putting my hands in the tank and picking up coral. I would rather just leave them, and they
mhm.
they like once you keep, especially like I have like a little Zoa island,
Yeah.
and the ones that haven't moved, that haven't been knocked over in a while, they grow super fast. And
Hmm.
yeah, just keep your hands out of your tank. So it's a good thing to easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody could do it.
Yeah. The biggest thing I find too, you said you didn't really mount or glue into your frags. So when my hands are in the tank is usually because a fish or a snail knocked over a frag. I'm trying to fix it. So I
Hmm.
mean, using those big little grabbers and stuff like that to pick up stuff is one way of avoiding it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. You definitely grab a tongs or just something to pick them up so you don't have your hands in your tank for sure.
Yep. But avoiding all those oils, filling your tank full of hand sanitizer. I'm sure there's lots of benefits of not having toxins and stuff in there.
Of course. Yeah, I don't want hand sanitizer going into my tank and stuff.
It's probably going to be the next thing on ICP test, the sanitizer level.
It's true I mean, especially here. I mean, I don't know how bad Canada is, but
Mhm.
everywhere here, you go into stores and they have hand sanitizer where you need
Yep.
to. Yeah, so that's another thing COVID brought.
I know. Yeah, it's the same thing here. I mean, we're not terrible for cases, at least in British Columbia, but
Hmm.
it's, they're thankfully trending downwards again. But same thing. Everywhere you go, there's like sanitizer, bazillion gallons of it. Every entrance, every store, tills. So it's definitely ingrained in us probably by now.
This was I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but here's my
Yeah.
gold torch, and here's it releasing eggs. I don't know if you could see it.
Oh, totally can. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was just releasing eggs, and it was amazing. I thought it was pretty cool. Like,
So
you know,
super
you're
cool.
you're keeping these corals that are come from the wild, and they're I don't know. I just think keeping a saltwater tank is just amazing. You're keeping these animals basically
Hmm.
from ocean, and you have it in your living room. Like,
Oh, it's
it's
amazing.
I love reef keeping. I think it's an amazing hobby.
It is. And honestly, it's probably like one of the hardest creatures to keep too. Like, it's not the easiest hobby in the world, but it is definitely rewarding. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like you have to have a passion for it. Like once you
Hmm.
start getting that, like, oh, I have to do this, oh, I have to do that. I mean,
Yep.
maybe I'm just lucky because I have everything automated and stuff, so I don't have to do so much work.
Hmm.
But I love it. Seeing corals grow, you're like, and when you first get into it, you're like, wait, these things can eat? They have a mouth? You
Yeah,
know?
they move. It's like a plant, but an animal. What? You
Yeah,
totally, eh?
yeah. Like anemones have a foot and they can move. You're like blown away. So
It's so crazy.
yeah,
Marcus, thank you for the super chat. Keep it up. I sure will. Thank you. But yeah, isn't it crazy? Like the first time you realize that like an enemy or a coral can walk around and find a new spot it likes better. It's like, I don't like this spot. I'm gonna try that crevices or that rock.
yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a whole different ball game than from keeping cichlids. Like different ball games. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a lot goes into it, and
Mhm.
that's why I'm saying you got to enjoy it. Because if you enjoy it, you're putting the effort into the tank. It's gonna pay you back, and you're gonna have a nice tank.
Yeah. Okay. Now you said you're doing a second tank soon, right? You're gonna turn that into an enemy tank, and you're
Yeah.
doing another one. So what's the plan for the secondary new tank?
So there's two more tank in the works. Right now, I have an 80-gallon tank sitting in my fish room.
Mm-hmm.
Electrician, we're like 90% done with construction, so electricians have to come in, put outlets in. Then I could start setting up the tank and stuff like that. But I want that tank just to be just like a frag tank. Move all my frags over there, let them grow,
Mm-hmm.
and not deal with the issues of the anemones and stuff here.
Yep.
And then across from my house, my living room, there I have a big wall, and Waterbox just came out with their big tank.
Ooh, you gonna go for it?
So I would love to do that.
Yeah.
My parents are all in for it.
Nice bonus.
So I ran two RO lines like through the roofs so I could have auto top off into the sump
Nice.
on each side of my house.
Nice.
So there's a line whenever that tank is ready, whenever I could get it and ship,
Love
that
it.
wall's ready, the RO line's there, I can set it up. But yeah, so in my fish room it'll be a frag tank and keep corals there for now. And once that tank is ready, definitely. I like SPS, but LPS I like when I see established SPS tanks, it's like wow, that's amazing. But right now I love LPS. I love the torches. I love the flow and stuff like that.
Yeah. The
everybody-
movement really does that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And the tanks are like everybody who comes to your house, you're like, oh my god, like this is awesome. Like, so it's always like a showstopper. So I think to have a big tank like that, and I also want to keep, like an Achilles tank, which they need a big tank and stuff like that. So that's
So what's going to be
more,
the big tank?
It's gonna be more work,
Mhm.
but I enjoy it so much that it's not gonna. I don't consider it work. Like, I enjoy it.
I agree. I could easily work on my tank all day and be happy and content, and
Yeah,
it's like a fun work, right? Because you enjoy it.
Exactly. It's like a fun work. But if you're starting off, I would start off with one tank, and I know everybody says the bigger, like the better, because it's less. Problems could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would suggest somebody start like 20, 30-gallon tank.
Yep.
You do water changes with like 2 clownfish, a couple frags. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I don't think it's that hard.
I 100% agree. There is, because so many people are bigger is better, but it's also harder to fix it if something goes wrong, right? Or a little tank, like your 20-gallon, you're like, oh, let me just do like 10-gallon water change, just 50% water change. It takes you 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, things are probably happy again. So I do agree.
Everything increases from dosing. Dosing more, that's more money you have to spend on dosing. More gallons of water that you have to hold, and so it's more. It's a challenge, but there's rewards to everything. If you want to keep it simple, 30-gallon tank.
Yeah. One of the easiest tanks I've honestly had, I had a 20-gallon Red Sea tank, little all-in-one, and I did a 5-gallon water change almost every week. Yeah, skip the odd week as a slacker, but for the most part, I did a 1 bucket water change. Literally drain it out, refill it. It took me less than 10 minutes. Tank thrived. I did like nothing to that tank, and it was like acros, tons of rock flowers. I think I had a doser on there doing like 2 or 3 mils a day, but it was like the easiest tank ever. It's the only thing I ever did is a 1 bucket water change, so it was great.
Well, you have 1 bucket. You don't have to deal with anything else. You have a 300-gallon tank. You need a massive container. You need to find space to keep the water. If you want to make your own water, and just the bigger, the more challenging. But
yeah, I find for me, because I've upgraded many upgrades, and the coral addiction is what set in for me. And you're like, oh, I don't have that one. I want that one. I don't have that color, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm out of space. So then you get a bigger tank. And then a year later, you're like, oh, I'm out of space again. And you get a bigger tank. So that's the hard part. If you could be content in a small tank and like stick to it, I think you'd be super duper easy. But The
Yeah,
addiction is real.
at Worldwide, you go in there and like in their front desk, they have like a super small tank, and it's like beautiful. It's like I think 2 gallon tank.
Yeah,
Like,
that thing's awesome.
yeah. So just find your niche. But yeah, no, coral addiction, absolutely. From 8 cans, torches, everything. It's addicting for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
100%.
it's good. I mean, you could spend money on a coral. It's gonna grow you.
Hmm.
It's gonna grow, and you could frag it and sell it. So I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
you're losing your money. I mean,
as long as they live, for
yeah,
sure.
of course.
Yeah. Yeah, once you're good at growing corals, it's good. And I honestly spent a fortune on coral in my first few years, and now that I have it all, when they grow, now I just trade stuff. Like I hardly ever spend money on coral anymore because I'm like, oh, you got something nice. What do you want for it? I'll just break off and trade you some frags, which is
Exactly.
really cool. So it's expensive up front, but long term, as long as you're not killing coral, as long as you're keeping everything alive and happy and is growing,
Hmm.
then the trading route's an amazing way to go long term.
Absolutely. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. I think that's great. You know, once I get to those, I could have colonies of like, an SPS. Frag something, trade it with a friend.
Yep.
Yeah, I have mostly frags right now. So a couple heads. Nothing tradable yet. I want to grow them out so then I could get to that phase. But
Hmm.
I agree with you. Coral is definitely addicting.
Yep. So how many nems do you have in the tank behind you,
Um. So
roughly?
I have one, two, three, four, five.
Nice.
I had four and one split.
Hmm.
So I have a long tentacle in the back corner of my tank. It does not move. It does
Hmm.
not move. It's never moved. It put his foot under a rock, lifted up the rock, hasn't moved since. I have a black widow on this side. I don't know
Hmm.
if it's right there.
Yeah.
That one hasn't moved. It likes its spot. Then the other two I got from Worldwide. They call it the Hawaiian Punch. It's a bubble tip.
Yep.
Um, those two have just been on the run. Um,
Bubble
and
tips
I
are pretty active, I find.
yeah, it was just unlucky because when I had nothing in the tank, no frags, I gave all my coral away. Those anemones did not move.
Yeah.
Put all my coral in. They are running a marathon now. So it's just been unlucky, but I like them. I mean, they're beautiful.
They are. And that'd be like a sweet tank for if you had a bunch of clowns too and just like a bunch of
Exactly.
anemones. Be
I
pretty
have
cool.
one clown, and he's aggressive. When I put my hands in the tank, he goes to bite me.
Really?
Um, yeah, he's aggressive, and he loves the anemones. He sleeps in there, so that symbiotic relationship is it's pretty cool, to have in
Hmm.
your home. You see these things on National Geographic and stuff like that, and I have it here in my living room. So
That's
I do
awesome.
want to put a whole bunch of clowns in here. I'll take this one out because he's so aggressive. I'll just move it to the other tank. But
Hmm.
yeah, a bunch of clowns with anemones is the goal for this.
That'd be really cool. I have never had a clown that's hosted an enemy for me. I've had bubble tips and tanks, and they're like, "Oh, let me host this leather coral," and like they
Oh,
just always went for other corals. They never went for the enemy. I was just like, ah. So, like, I don't have one in now, but now they're hosting. I don't even know what that is, like a big brain type coral. But yeah, it's just like they've never went for the nems. My two clients,
yeah.
they're just confused about life. But I don't know. It
I,
always just cracks me up. I'm like, perfectly good nems.
yeah,
No, let me go to this Kenya tree. Thank you.
yeah, that's
They
that's
like sleep in the branches, which is still cute. But
funny. Yeah, no, my when the first gold torch I had the
Mhm.
anemones, and my first clownfish didn't host anything but the gold torch. It would just swim on it, and the gold torch didn't seem irritated by it at all. But he would
Mhm.
just the gold torch. I had a clownfish that would just host the overflow, sit in the corner. Every other day he would jump into the overflow. I had to take him out of the overflow constantly. But yeah, clownfish could definitely host weird things. Like my had a clownfish that would just host the overflow. He would just sit by the overflow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but this clownfish, he loves the anemones. He loves them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Another thing that we tell people is if you get your clownfish and your anemone at the same time, maybe put them in a bucket or like a closed
Hmm.
space. And they'll just naturally do that. Some
Hmm.
people that's worked. But yeah, I just got lucky. I put him in there. He found his way, figured it out.
Nice. I
Yeah.
know Mark Levinson, one of Me Loves You, in his video, he used a big tube to put his clown, so they entered the tank right at the
Yeah.
enemy and they just stayed there. So I'm like, oh, it's actually a good way of doing it.
I
Yeah.
might, yeah. Put a
The
big like
first thing you see, stay here.
PC pipe or acrylic tube. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple people asking in the chat about if you can keep multiple anemones together. Definitely can. And
Yeah.
enemies, I've never found them to sting or do anything to each other.
No, I mean, as long as they're bubble tip,
Hmm.
they're fine. I have the long tentacle, which they're saying not to put them, but he doesn't. He stays in a corner, and they've never touched or done anything or anything like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, several bubble tip and enemies, and I
Nice.
heard something about like well, carpet and enemies are super aggressive, but
Yeah.
like the expensive Colorado sunburst,
Hmm.
like don't put those with bubble tip. Have
Oh,
them.
really? Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. They said, don't do that. Um, I haven't bought a sunburst before, but that's what I've heard. But I don't know. But yeah, I have multiple bubble tips. They're touching, they're walking, and
Yep.
they're fine.
Yeah, yeah, bubble tips definitely are. I think, as far as I know, I've never heard of any issues with the long tentacle and that. But then again, maybe if the bubble tip likes, he'll just walk away. He doesn't really care.
Hmm.
It's interesting that your long tentacles haven't moved because a couple other people I know that have them, they've basically stayed in the same spot too. So they seem to be more campers than wanderers.
At first it moved.
Hmm.
It moved. It was in the other corner, moved smack in the middle, and then moved to that
Hmm.
corner that's been in, and it hasn't moved in a year. It hasn't moved in a really long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
I think they like the sand too a lot. Um,
hmm.
yeah, he would dig his foot. I would put him on a rock. Did not like it. He would go straight
Yeah.
to the sand, put his foot all the way through, grab onto the bottom of the tank or whatever.
Yep.
But he loves the sand. He doesn't move at all, and he's
Nice.
yeah.
Um,
Cool.
ATF in the house. Can you put rock flowers bubble tips? Sure can. I've had them together. I've never had an issue there.
Yep, I
Uh,
have multiple rock flowers, and
mm,
one of my bubble tips was close to the rock flower. And the rock
mm.
flower was moved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a nice thing. They have legs. They can do that.
yeah, so, yeah. They're fine.
Hmm.
And
uh,
they'll catch one of mine is just like in a perfect spot where the flow comes. He'll catch a mysis. They grow
mhm.
fast. They grow fast.
Yeah.
I got
If
mine
you
like penny size and it's grown like huge.
if you feed it mysis every few days, it will definitely grow quicker and
Yeah.
likely split more chance of splitting if you feed it fairly heavy as well.
Hmm.
So that's good. Do you feed yours or do you just let them catch whatever broadcast feeds in the tank?
Yeah. Rock flowers are really nice and they don't move as much as
Hmm.
bubble tips, so they're really nice.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, I love them
The
too.
the nano I used to have, I think I had 50 or so, and the whole sandbed was basically rock flowers. It looked super cool.
Yeah, rock flowers are sweet, super cool.
Yeah. Peppermints ate my rock flowers. What? I've never heard of that. Reef
That's
Geek?
unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. I didn't think they would do that. I've heard of them potentially munching on euphyllia if they're hungry. I've never heard of them eating a
Yeah,
rock flower, though.
I have two cleaner shrimp. I have like the super red one,
Hmm.
and the skunk, the regular.
Yep.
They're cool. They're cool creatures too.
Hmm.
But yeah, peppermint I've never had um, an issue with. And also with having my lights so high, I never had algae in my tank. Never, ever. I've never had any algae grow in my tank at all. Maybe
Bonus?
I run GFO.
Yep.
And that's it, and carbon in like the filter sock, or the media bag, and I've never had any algae grow on my rocks or anywhere in particular. I had a cyano, that was in the beginning of my tank. When I
Mhm.
first started it, had that cyano outbreak, but other than that, that's really it. The Coraline that we were talking about,
Yep.
this is the paper I got from Algae Barn. It says here that between 78 to 82 degrees, and it says Coraline will grow slower in tanks with temperature less than 78 degrees. So,
Yeah.
and it says keep a stable pH level between 8.1 to 8.3.
Mhm.
And it says if pH is lower than 8, it will take an additional 5 weeks of growth.
Really?
So, yeah, so that's why I think my Coraline skyrocketed because it was always at like 8.5, especially when it was super hot.
Hmm.
And that's their knowledge.
That's crazy. I mean, I've never considered like the rate of Coraline growth before in temperature, but like in general, temperature will speed the metabolism of everything in your tank, right? But I've never considered about Coraline algae, but probably a similar concept.
Yeah, it also says here to remove this is when you're first putting it in. Remove power heads and stuff like that, so they could just settle on rocks. I guess like
Hmm.
I don't want to say eggs, but like just the Coraline themselves, the spores. There you go.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. So this is directly from Algae Barn, and
Nice.
eh?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, Robert has a question off topic, but will the presence of Cinerea cause Favia not to extend its tentacles? Cinerea and leather corals can release a bit of toxins as like chemical warfare. So if you do think it's causing issues with something else, which is very possible, I have no idea about tentacles, but in general, it's their way of trying to like ward off other corals. Just run carbon once in a while, and we'll suck out that nasty out of the tank, and then you should be fine.
Yeah, I've heard them releasing some toxins too.
Yeah.
Or another random statement, but I forgot to mention my diamond goby.
Mm-hmm.
He spits sand all the time. That's another. If you
Does he
have,
bury?
yeah,
Did he bury your coral?
yeah, he'll do that often, and that's another thing. You know, if you have coral in your sand bed and you have a diamond goby, it will
Mm-hmm.
it will cover coral, and that's another reason why you have to put your hand in the tank. So, just another small consideration.
Yeah, that's I've wanted one just to keep that extra white pristine sand bed, but I'm like, no, you're gonna bury everything. It's too much work.
Yeah, and
So,
they sift through their gills and stuff like that. You know, at
mhm.
first you're like, oh my God, I want one. It's so cool. But I mean, I wouldn't get rid of them now because I've had them. You know, they're like your pets, so you don't want to get rid of them. But
Mm-hmm. Yep.
first, I wouldn't get one if knowing what I
You
know.
have. Yeah, or the other thing is too, I mean, if you can somehow manage not to have corals all over your sand bed, make sure everything's mounted to rocks, you're probably a bit safer there.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah,
But I've seen some that will be very considerate and just sift on the sand bed, and I've seen some that will go up like in the air 10
yeah.
inches, then do it, and it just goes
He
everywhere.
does that. Yeah, he does that. He'll grab sand, go up in the air, and spit sand everywhere.
And then the flow just puts it all over your tank.
Yeah,
Like, ah, thank you for that.
yeah. Um, one of their tips here from Algae Barn for fast growth, it says Coraline algae grows very slow. Its growth rate is approximately 10 times more rapid in tropical waters. So it says if your temperature is below 78, you should increase it to 78 to 82. It'll
Hmm.
increase the reproduction growth rate by 15%. So
Hmm. On that same note, because I know if you're cycling your tank, same thing, if you up the temperature and stuff, you can up the bacteria growth rate a bit as well.
mhm.
But now the only downside to try and like double dip on that one is you could potentially be growing algae as well if you're trying to crank your lights and get Coraline growth and all that all in one shot. But
Yeah.
yeah, trade off.
Well, yeah, I think if you're trying to grow Coraline,
Hmm.
high temperature and high pH, I mean,
Yep.
that,
High pH makes all calcification happy.
yeah, I mean, I have so much Coraline. I'm like, geez, I don't know. My tank's only a year old. I feel like your tank shouldn't have as much Coraline as mine does.
Hmm.
In a year, you know.
Yeah, your rocks are pretty dang purple in that photo that's on the cover.
Yeah. I mean, it's super. Like I can't. It's super. They're super red and super purple. So
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull it up for a second, but yeah, you can see the crazy amounts of Coraline. Like your rocks are just caked in it.
yeah,
It's definitely
it
taken
really.
over.
Somebody. I'm in like this local chat where a lot of reefers are in, and I had sent some pictures, and they're like, "Oh, you should clean up your rock full of cyano." And I was like, "Oh no, that's not cyano. It's full of Coraline." He's like, "Wow, it's really impressive." And so yeah, maybe I could get a
Little shot of her. Yeah,
yeah,
you got tons on there.
but it's really blue. I don't know if the LEDs.
Yeah, it still shows up decently well.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's another thing. Taking pictures of your tank with the LEDs, it's like terrible. You need like a filter.
Yep, yellow or orange filter makes
Yeah,
a
it's
huge
like that.
difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, beauty. All right, we got to cut her short soon just because I got a bunch of family stuff I got to do tonight. But any other tips that you would give to a new reefer or someone starting out?
Um, Make sure your
With
water quality is as best, top notch as possible.
and how do you do that?
Have a good RO system.
Yep.
Uh, get some good salt.
How often do you test
Test.
your tank?
I test once a week.
Do you? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, every Sunday. Every Sunday I'm testing.
Nice.
So I'm testing for nitrates and phosphates every Sunday. With the
Hmm.
Trident, it tests every day for me. So
Yeah, you get spoiled. I
yeah,
found this is a double-edged sword. I freaking love the Alcatronic because it tests my elk every 12 hours. But I've learned it also makes me lazier on testing everything else because it tests for me. So
yeah.
now I'm like, okay, I need to automate everything.
I would love for Apex to come out with a nitrate tester or phosphate tester automatically, I would, you know,
They
that
probably will eventually. I mean, it would
yeah.
make sense, but
I was waiting
yeah.
for Anna to come out with their nitrate tester for the longest and stuff like that.
Do you have it?
I have it. I don't. It only tests between I think 5 and 10, and when I test on the Red Sea, it comes out to 16. So you have to like dilute it, and you need to have a fresh batch of salt water to dilute it. And I always forget every time I do a fresh batch of salt water. I just do my water change, and I forget to keep it in a jar.
Mm-hmm.
They say just keep a jar of salt water, and you could just dilute it like that.
Okay. I've never tried using it, so good to know.
Yeah, it's fairly. It's not beginner friendly, I would say. I definitely have had to YouTube it and watch somebody do it because with instructions, it could get a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, I mean, it's worked.
Nice.
So
Yeah, it works. No,
Yep.
awesome. I haven't tried that one yet, so I was curious.
yeah, it's
Yep.
not bad.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today, Jordan. It's been a great stream. And if you guys do want to check out him, I do have a link to his Instagram in the description. So if you want to follow his tank build and the progression, be sure to check it out.
Yes.
Appreciate you coming on tonight, man.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions about my tank or any questions in general, they could shoot me a message on Instagram and give it a chat.
Awesome. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. It was a good one, good random chat. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe.